Keith, Keith Byerly, he wrote in, I'm first. We good? All right. Hello, friends of Eden Valley. Thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a new experience, so I ask that you kind of bear with me. I'm used to doing talks in front of actual people instead of a camera, so thank you for your patience and bearing with us if there's any technical difficulties. I want to start out just with a quick introduction. My name is Travis Laws. I am the Lifestyle Director for EdenValleyInstitute of Wellness, and my background, I'm a registered nurse. I've spent a lot of time working in the ICU and cardiac cath lab. I've been at Eden Valley here for just almost 5 years now. And so that's a little bit about myself. Want to tell you what we're going to discuss today. We're going to go over a lot of topics. We're going to be discussing what we call the 9 laws of health, 8 foundational health principles that you can apply to your health. A lot of places we talk about the 8 laws of health, but I'm going to add one today. So we're actually going to look at 9 laws. We're going to be talking about some herbal supplements that you can use to help stimulate your immune system and help keep your body healthy during this time. And then last, we're going to talk about COVID-19, how it affects our immune system, and then what we can do to build up our immune system with some really simple methods. And at the end, for those of you, let me just pull this up real quick so you can see this. I'm not sure how many viewers we have, but we will have the opportunity for questions at the end. That's the nice thing about doing this live. It's interesting looking at me on the screen because there's a delay in what I'm actually saying and what's showing here. So here is a picture of my computer screen, and Clayton's going to have to help me kind of direct this, but you can possibly see the chat link right here underneath the view screen. So if you're if you're using a laptop or computer, you'll be able to see that. If you're using your mobile device or tablet, you may have to actually unlock this chat screen right here, and you'll have the opportunity to type in questions, and we can hopefully get them answered for you. I'll do the best that I can. So again, this is a new concept for me, doing this remotely like this. So let's get started. Let's talk about the 9 laws of health. Now, the first 8, we're going to do this fairly quickly because a lot of the people watching are already going to be familiar with what we call the 8 laws of health, these 8 foundational principles that we build on. So we're going to go over this fairly quickly. The first 8 laws are easily memorized through the acronym, and they're most recognized through the acronym New START. New START stands for nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust. So we're going to break down each one of those, and then at the end we're going to discuss the 9th law of health. So let's start with nutrition. This is a big topic. We can go on and spend hours just talking about nutrition. So I'm going to break this down fairly quickly and very simply. We're coming at it from a perspective of a whole food plant-based diet. I don't even like to use the term vegan diet because the term vegan still leaves the door open for a lot of things that are unhealthy. Oreo cookies, potato chips, beer, those things are vegan. And you can eat, a lot of the meat substitutes that we have are vegan, but they're not necessarily the best thing for us. There's also a lot of processed foods that are vegan. So when we use the term whole food plant-based diet, it eliminates the animal products out of our diet, but it also eliminates all processed foods out of our diet. So we're looking at a whole food plant-based diet. Now, one of the biggest questions we get is, what about protein? If you're on a plant-based diet, how are you going to get enough protein? There's a lot of people out there that think that, well, without animal protein, you're going to somehow become deficient. And that's just simply not the case. beans, lentils, other legumes, tofu, nuts, vegetables all contain protein. Broccoli contains protein. If we look at the largest, strongest animals on the planet, the largest land animal on the planet is the elephant, plant-based animal. Some of the most powerful, strongest animals, look at silverback gorillas. The males are massive and intensely strong. They are plant-based animals. Rhinoceros, plant-based animals. Horses, plant-based animals. So if they can get as big and as strong as they are, what excuse do we have? They're eating plants. We can get big, we can get strong and stay healthier, maintaining a plant-based diet. Another thing from a nutritional standpoint that's really important, especially right now, when we're looking at all the concerns surrounding this virus, this COVID-19 virus, is refined sugar. Refined sugar weakens our immune system. It breaks down our body's ability to recognize invasive things like viruses and bacteria, and it impedes our body's ability to fight these things off. So it makes us more susceptible to infection. So eliminate the refined sugars. We have to keep that stuff out right now. Another thing that we want to look at is processed foods. There's a lot of additives, a lot of chemicals and preservatives that come along with those processed foods. So sticking with your whole foods is going to be significantly healthier during this time. Optimal health requires optimal nutrition. So we need to feed our bodies in order to preserve our immune system, in order to preserve our health, maintain it, and in the likelihood that in the event that we do get sick, we need to give our body the nutrition it needs to be able to adequately fight off disease. And we can do that through eating healthy. There's some resources if you want to learn more about a whole food plant-based diet. Some of the resources I made notes of here. There's the fairly new documentary out there called The Game Changers. This is going to break down the science behind a plant-based diet. World-class athletes, bodybuilders, NFL football players, mixed martial arts. You're going to see interviews with a lot of different people on there. If you're sensitive to language, you do have to be cautious with this. There is some language involved in that one, but the science and the evidence behind a whole food plant-based diet is very phenomenal. Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org is another excellent resource. You can go directly to his website, nutritionfacts.org, and he also has a YouTube channel that's full of wonderful information. And then there's Professor Walter Veith with Amazing Discoveries, who has several health talks that deal with health-related topics as well as from a nutritional standpoint. So those are some resources that you can look into to get more information from the nutritional standpoint. Next on our list of New Start, we have exercise. Exercise, bodies in motion tend to stay in motion. So if we want to have long, active, healthy lives, we have to live active and healthy now. There's some studies that I found not too long ago for another talk that compared smoking versus a sedentary life. And I was actually really surprised by this. What we've found is that people that smoke and exercise every day or exercise regularly have a longer life expectancy than people that never smoke but live sedentary lives. To take it even further, they found that people that smoke and exercise sometimes have a longer life expectancy than people that have sedentary lives. Now, if you don't smoke and you exercise regularly, your life expectancy is even longer. So activity is very much associated with long living. How much activity do we need? There's different theories on this. You can look into this and find a lot of different answers. One of the best things that I have found up to this point is that for people that are overweight or that are struggling with like type 2 diabetes, we need around 2 hours of physical activity every day. Now that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be on a treadmill for 2 hours straight. It means 2 hours of activity throughout the day. So how can we get that? Well, you can park farther away when you go to work. You can take the stairs instead of taking the elevator. There's ways of shortcutting things. Instead of buying your wood chopped, buy it whole and chop it yourself. Go for a walk with your spouse, in the morning or in the evening. There's lots of ways to get that activity throughout the day. For those that have relatively good health and they're at an ideal weight, we can get by with around 1 hour activity of physical activity every day. So a little bit less for those that have better health and more optimal weight. And one of the best ways that we can get that physical activity is through a type of exercise called high-intensity interval training. What high-intensity interval training or burst training, there's a lot of different terms that are used right now for this. That is short bursts of maximum effort exercise combined with short rest periods. So 30 to 45 seconds of maximum effort, then followed by a slow walk, to let the heart cool down for about a minute to a minute and a half, and then repeat that again. Another 30 to 45 seconds of maximum effort, then another short rest period. And if you do that, 5 or 6 cycles of that, you'll get more benefit to your cardiovascular health. You'll get more calorie burn than if you're just jogging a straight line mile. It's phenomenal. 15 minutes to 20 minutes of this a day does more for the body than just straight road running. Exercise, very, very important. I know that can be difficult with the limitations that some areas have. So if your outdoor areas are still open, I know in Colorado as of today, our outdoor areas are still open. We can't get up to places like Rocky Mountain National Park, but places like Horsetooth Open Space are still open for hiking, trail running, walking. So get outside if you're able to. Keep that social distancing as we're being asked to do. Keep in small groups, but still get outside, get that fresh air, get moving. Water. This is for those of you that have been through our program. You've probably heard me and remember how much I emphasize water. Hydration is so vitally important. We need to be drinking gobs of water right now. Water helps flush our system, clean us out. It helps keep all of our organs working properly, all of our cells working properly. So how much water does it take to do that? A lot of people say, well, 8 glasses a day. Well, it depends on the person. So what we need is half of your weight in ounces. So if you're a 150-pound person, you need at least 75 ounces of water a day. Your coffees, your teas, your sodas, your Cokes, those don't count, okay? We're talking just good, clean water. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is when we should be drinking. We should stop drinking at least 30 minutes before our meals, and we should resume drinking at least we should wait at least an hour and a half after our meals. And if we're timing our meals properly, 5 to 6 hours apart, 2 meals a day, you've got plenty of time between those 2 meals to get your fluid in. Let's see here. Let's look at sunlight. That's next on our list on New Start. Sunlight has been shown to have profound effects on our mood. It has effects on depression and anxiety. It's required for our body's natural production of vitamin D, and very important. Now, the nice thing about getting outside and exercising outside is you get the sunshine when you're out there. So I do encourage you on those bright sunny days. That's easy to do here in Colorado. We have a lot of sunshine here. Get outside, get in the sun, and get that fresh air, which we'll be talking about here in a minute. Temperance is next. Now, when I ask people, what is your definition of temperance? How would you define temperance? The most common answer we get is moderation in all things. And that can be a very dangerous mindset when we think that moderation in all things is okay. That leaves a lot of room for unhealthy habits to start coming in. So moderation in all things, we want to do away with that concept. A little bit of heroin is not okay. A little bit of anthrax is not okay. Drinking a little bit of Drano is not okay. You know, that might sound extreme, but you see where I'm going with that. The definition of temperance that we're going to be looking at is this: elimination or abstinence of anything harmful and moderation in all things healthful. So when we eliminate all the bad stuff, all the things that we know are harmful to our bodies, and then we moderate the things that are healthful, it puts ourselves in a much healthier position. Believe it or not, you can eat too much kale. You can have too much garlic. Just ask anybody, especially Italians. It seems like you guys eat a lot of garlic. We eat a lot of garlic in our family. I can always tell when my wife's cooking. But good stuff, and we'll talk about garlic here in a little bit too. So moderate the things that are healthy, get rid of the things that are harmful. Temperance. Air, fresh air. When we talk about the air in New Start, we are talking about getting fresh air. How do we do that? Well, we got to open our windows, we got to open our doors, we got to get outside, let that air get in, circulate through the house. Don't just turn on the ceiling fans and move the air around. Actually get stuff in there. Get that air exchange, especially at night. Crack your windows at night, even just a little bit. If it's cold, add some more blankets on, keep yourself warm, but get that air circulating at night. It's been shown that having fresh air exchange in your bedroom at night significantly decreases your risk of stroke and heart attack. Having ample fresh air, good oxygenation can help lower blood pressure as well, can help lower stress. So one of the things there, again, exercising outside is a great way to get fresh air. If you're doing your high-intensity interval training outside, you're going to be deep breathing. You're going to be getting that fresh air in. You're going to be getting that sunshine in. So get outside. Practice deep breathing throughout the day. Every once in a while, take a good deep breath. You want to not just feel the chest expansion in your breathing, but you want to feel that belly expansion as well. So you want to fill those lungs up, hold it in, and then slowly let it out. Do that every few minutes, at least a few times throughout the day. Get that air, move it in, fill the lungs, and get it out. Let's talk a little bit about rest. This one can be hard for a lot of us. The adult human being needs 8 to 9 hours of sleep every day. Now that's not 3 hours here, 4 hours there, but we need a good 8 hours of continuous sleep every night. And I know with stress and other issues that come up in life that can be really difficult. I have a hard time sleeping myself a lot of times. And so we found some things that can really help with that. One of the most effective is screen time. We do recommend that you turn off your screens at least an hour before going to bed. That means cell phones. My wife's here. She's looking at me like, you're not very good at that one. I have a tendency to be checking emails before bed, just making sure I didn't miss anything. So turning off your cell phone an hour before you go to bed. Turn off Netflix. Turn off the TV, the tablets, your Instagram. You can check up on the Kardashians in the morning. I'm sure they'll be okay. So turn the screens off an hour before going to bed. And then now I'm going to step on some toes here, and I'm sorry for this, and that is caffeine. Caffeine is not the answer for chronic fatigue. All right. Caffeine does not give you more energy for the day. What it does is it works through chemical things in the body, and it actually saps your body of energy. One of the leading factors in chronic fatigue is actually caffeine addiction. When people cut the caffeine out, it's amazing how quickly they see the chronic fatigue resolve. Caffeine is not the answer. Drink lots of water, apply these other laws of health that we've been talking about, and you'll many times find that chronic fatigue, those sleepless nights, they start getting better and better. Now, the last of the 8 laws that we're going to talk about is trust, and we're going to be looking specifically at trust and divine power. This is vitally important. Excuse me. Allowing God to work in our lives and trusting Him to lead us is huge. In times of high stress, high anxiety, uncertainty, we look at the world around us with all this COVID-19, all of the questions surrounding that right now. There's a lot of questions being asked, and praise God, there's a lot of people turning to their Bibles now, trying to find out what is going on. And that is the best place you can be looking. That's one of the best resources you can use in times like this. And when we put our faith and our trust in God, that no matter what our circumstances are, trusting Him to see us through according to His wisdom It's amazing what that does to take the stress and the burden of anxiety away from us and allows us to take that deep breath and say, okay, the Lord's got me. I'm in good hands. So I encourage each and every one of you to put your trust in the Lord and allow Him to lead your lives during this time, and not just this time, but in every situation that you may face. The last thing that we're going to talk about, this 9th law, this mystery law, is familiar to a lot of people. We talk about it in our programs here at Eden Valley, and that is the attitude of gratitude. Spending time every day, taking time every day to think about the things that you're thankful for. One of the best ways to do this is through gratitude journaling. Get a book, head to your whatever pharmacy stores carry journals. You can go to Walmart, you can go to Marshall's, places like that, if they're open, and you can get journals. You can do it on your computer too. Write down or type up 5 things every day that you're grateful for. It's amazing how when we take time to recognize how God has blessed our lives, what that does to release the burdens from us. It changes our thinking from the problems in our lives to the things that are good in our lives, the way the Lord has blessed us. And no matter how bad things may seem, you always have something to be grateful for. And all of us have what I call a door day, and that is that comes from an old Elder Kuhn sermon. I encourage you, that's a good one to watch. It's called "And Then Everything Went Wrong," and you can see that on YouTube as well. If you look up Glenn Kuhn, "And Then Everything Went Wrong," you can watch this talk. But the door days are days where it's so bad that you can't think of anything. You can't think of anything to be grateful for. And then we have the fail-safe. There's always at least something that we can look to when everything else and nothing else seems to come to mind. We always have at least one thing, and I've got my 2 little girls sitting over here, Allie and Sophia. My wife is here, and they're my fail-safe. No matter how bad things get, I can always be grateful for my children and for my wife. And, it's amazing on those days, and I've had plenty of them where I have a hard time finding things to be grateful for. But I look at my wife, I look at my children, and I tell the Lord, thank you for my children, thank you for my wife. And the floodgates start opening up, and more things start coming to my mind of the ways that the Lord has blessed me. So I encourage you, think every day, at least a little bit every day, of the things that you're grateful for. Some of the most toxic substances to the human body are stress, shame, guilt, and unforgiveness. And when we can forgive ourselves, when we can forgive other people, it takes a burden away. God forgives our sins. We need to be willing to forgive ourselves, and we need to be willing to forgive others as well. So if you've got a relationship in your life that's strained, and you need to have a hard conversation, then maybe it's time to do that. If that person has passed on, maybe a family member in the past, or a neighbor, somebody that's hurt you in some way, and they're no longer here or not in a place where you can have that conversation. You don't necessarily need to. You can still forgive somebody even if they're not right there face to face. So I encourage you to forgive, to trust, put these things into practice. And it's amazing what that can do to help keep your body working at an optimal level. Now we're going to switch gears here. And we're going to talk about some supplements that you can take during this time, this COVID-19, and at other times as well. Now, I don't take supplements every day. I eat a very, very balanced diet, a lot of plants, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits. It's a balanced diet, so I don't have necessarily the need for a lot of extra supplements. However, in times like this, when the body is being stressed, when there's this viral infection that's coming through, there's some things that you can add to your regimen to actually help. And I've got these in a drawer here. These actually came out of my cupboard this morning, or just before we came down here. Now, the first one I want to talk about, actually I don't have here with me, is turmeric. Turmeric root is a wonderful anti-inflammatory. Now, a lot of our over-the-counter turmeric supplements are actually curcumin extracts. And curcumin extract is a good product. It can help. But in all the studies I've found so far, the actual turmeric root, whether it's a dried powder or whole turmeric root in a capsule or fresh turmeric root, is actually significantly more effective in helping combat inflammation than the curcumin. So, and it's a lot cheaper. Curcumin supplements can be very expensive. So I do encourage you, get that whole root turmeric. Anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a day, can help reduce the inflammation in your body. Works very well for that. Another thing that helps with inflammation that I don't have with me is frankincense essential oil. Frankincense is known for its ability to help the body fight inflammation. It has a magnificent ability to fight abnormal, unhealthy cells. Those are called cancer cells. And we all have those, whether it's a viral infection, a bacterial infection, fungal infection, cancer, so many things that frankincense can help us with. And as little as 5 drops of frankincense essential oil every day. I do recommend by mouth. There's a lot of places that talk about avoiding the oral use of essential oils, but I actually am a proponent of it here. Most of your essential oil companies do label their bodies for external use only. You can email me. I'll give you our contact information later if you have more questions on what's safe to use by mouth and what's not. But 5 drops a day by mouth of frankincense essential oil can be very, very beneficial in helping sustain your immune system and reduce your inflammatory load. One of the supplements I got out of my cabinet today is vitamin C. This is the Ester C brand. I do like this one. It is a little more expensive, but this is vitamin C with bioflavonoids. There are a lot of cheap vitamin C supplements out there, and they don't always work the same. In order for your body to actually absorb all the vitamin C and put it into use, it must have the bioflavonoids. And that's why I go with this particular brand and spend a little bit more money, because it actually is the complete vitamin C structure versus just a citric acid supplement, which is why a lot of your vitamin C supplements, if you notice when you take a vitamin C pill, your urine is typically really, really bright yellow afterwards. And that's because it's not being utilized by the body. It's just being eliminated by the kidneys. So it's really not doing a whole lot. However, when the bioflavonoids are intact with a good supplement, you'll find that the bioavailability is much higher and your body can actually take in that vitamin C and utilize it. Of course, nothing replaces the natural sources like your grapefruits, your lemons. There's a lot of fruits, especially even some vegetables that are higher in vitamin C. So it's much better to get it from your whole plant sources. But in light of where we're at today, with the grocery stores and limited mobility, maybe some stores closing, it may not be that easy to get the produce. So you can take something like this to help give your body a little bit more. Next is I want to look at is vitamin B. I don't have mine with me. I left that one at home today, sorry. B12 supplement can really help your immune system. It helps with other things as well. Now, this is especially important for those of you that are on a whole food plant-based diet, because most of our vitamin B actually comes from meat sources. And this is one of those things that another argument of why people say, well, we have to have meat in our diet, otherwise we don't have enough B12. Just supplement it. It's that simple. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. Vitamin B12 supplements are usually fairly inexpensive. So you may have to do a supplement of B12 once in a while. Typically is not needed every day. For most people, once a month, or not once a month, I'm sorry, once a week, 2,500 micrograms weekly is generally an okay dose for most people. Vitamin D. Now this one is really important today. Now this is the one that I have. I've actually got, this one's almost empty, and I've got another brand that I'll be using after this. This is just one that I'd found on sale. So vitamin D3, this is 10,000 units per capsule. Vitamin D is, the functions behind vitamin D, we're still learning more about it. But the range, if you do a blood test, which I do recommend you do to find out where you're at with your vitamin D levels, the range is very broad. It's anywhere from 30 to 100. And what I found is most people are at that bottom end of the range. They're either under 30 and many people are under 20. But most of them aren't even up to the 50 level, which is at the mid-range. And to get full immune function from vitamin D, to receive all the maximum benefits of this, your blood levels actually need to be around 70 to 100. So we look at, you don't want to get overloaded with it either. So if you can keep those levels, 70 to 90, that's a really good range. Most full-grown adults need anywhere from around 5 to 10,000 units a day. If you're already at a normal level, up there at that 50 or that 70 to 90 range, around 10,000 a day can keep you there. But if you're down at the lower level, you may need to take a significantly higher amount, like 50,000 units a day for a while to get your levels up where they should be. Another supplement that's really good, I don't have that one either, and that is zinc. Sorry, I left that one at home. Zinc's pretty easy. It's fairly inexpensive, but zinc can also help your immune system and help fight off things. That's one of my go-tos anytime I start to get sick. If my kids get sick, then I'll generally take a few doses of zinc for a few days to kind of help my body fight that off. I like to take 50 milligrams a day when I first feel the onset of an illness coming on, 50 milligrams a day. Now, I do exercise caution with this one. If you take it on an empty stomach, it can make you sick, so take it with food, and that'll avoid that. Here at Eden Valley, we make a supplement called Ultimate Yuck, and I am a proponent of this stuff. It comes in a tincture. And it's an immune booster supplement, and it's called Ultimate Yuck because the original recipe on this, I have been told, tasted horrible. So we lovingly gave it the name Ultimate Yuck. It doesn't taste so bad now. Sophia, can you come here real quick? Come here. Just to show you it doesn't taste bad, I'll call my kiddo up here, and we'll experiment with her. All right, you ready? How's that taste? Huh? Yummy. Yummy? Allie, do you want some too? All right, come here, sweet. All right. So, Ultimate Yuck. Now, you're not going to find this at your grocery store, unfortunately. Oh, here you go. All right.
Yummy.
Yummy. All right. Thank you, sweet. Ultimate Yuck. The only place you can get that as of right now is here at Eden Valley. If you do want some of this, you can call our country store. The number for our country store is 970-669-4867. Sorry, it's not a sales pitch, but it's good stuff. We keep it all the time, and we go through a lot of this. So, taking kids to, social activities, Sabbath schools, jumping houses, things where they're around other sick kids, this can really, really help. And I've had feedback from friends that have young kids that are in daycare or public schools or private schools where they're around kids all the time, and this has been a supplement that they've attested to that really helps keep their kids from getting things as often. Now, in particular with this COVID-19, there's been some talk of a supplement called NAC. That's N-acetylcysteine. That has been shown. I know there's been some presentations on NAC and its ability to help, especially with COVID-19. I can't speak a lot about this, but I did want to bring it up. I'll tell you right now, I'll be the first to admit, I need to research this one a little bit more. But I have found some information that shows that a NAC supplement can potentially increase risk of adenocarcinoma. And so I do exercise a little bit of caution with this because I don't know that much about this one. And I know that's been a topic of discussion now with the COVID-19 and supplementing NAC, the N-acetylcysteine. I do encourage you to look into this first before you start taking it, and then make a judgment call for yourself. I just wanted to make people aware that there is a potential risk here of the increased risk for adenocarcinoma, at least according to some sources that I found. So, like I said, I do need to research that a little bit more. And the last supplement I want to talk about is garlic. Now, this is a natural food that does wonders for the immune system. Now, in particularly raw garlic. So don't be afraid of it. It's your friend. Use it. It might make your fingers smell bad. It might make your breath smell bad. Unless you like the smell of garlic, then it'll smell good. So get some raw garlic. Try to get at least one to two cloves of garlic a day. One raw clove of garlic a day will do wonders. Now, don't just get the clove and bite, and just swallow it whole. One of the reasons we crush the garlic is by crushing the garlic, it mixes all the chemicals in there and helps release everything. So all those compounds, things like the allicin, can be released and absorbed into the body, be used to its full extent. So smash the garlic and then use it, and try to get at least one clove a day, the raw garlic. Okay, that's been we've covered a lot of territory here with the 9 laws of health that we've gone over. We've talked about some supplements. Now I want to kind of get to the crux of this talk, and that is talking specifically about COVID-19, how it affects the immune system. I do want to thank Keith Byerly right now. He sent us some really good information. I've watched some of this over and over again. I've gone through this and I've looked at it. It helped me to dig a little deeper in this. So thanks, Keith, for sending Chelsea the videos that you sent, and for Chelsea for forwarding those on to me. There was some really good information here. So what we're going to look at in particularly with COVID-19. COVID-19 impairs, now I'm sorry I'm not looking at the camera so much, this information's a little newer to me, so I'm going to have to be looking at my notes a little bit more to make sure I get this all correct. So, COVID-19 impairs our innate immunity. Now, our innate immunity functions, and we can get really deep with this. We don't have time to do that today. If you want to hear more detail about this, send us an email, let us know, and we'll work on another presentation. Probably won't be live, but where we can have actual graphics to show you some of this stuff in more detail. COVID-19 impairs our innate immunity. In particularly things like our monocytes, our natural killer cells, and other macrophages. What COVID-19 does is it suppresses the first response of our immune system. So our macrophages, especially our monocytes, are significantly reduced. So our body can't recognize the infection in its early stages, which is why a lot of people are asymptomatic for anywhere from day 5 to day 12 is usually when symptoms start appearing, is around day 12. So there's this period of time where symptoms may not show up, but the infection is still present and it's still working. And because the innate immunity, the monocytes, the natural killer cells, and other macrophages aren't able to do what they need to do, what happens at around day 12 when symptoms show up is finally we have this massive influx of what we call cytokines, and it creates what we call a cytokine storm. And the body gets overwhelmed with this immune response and this inflammatory reaction, and that's where we're seeing the pneumonia set in. And in these really severe cases, it's the pneumonia caused by the COVID-19 that is proving deadly for so many people. So if the innate immunity is impaired by the virus itself, our lifestyle habits also have an effect on how our immune system. So by putting things into practice that we've discussed earlier, it puts us in a stronger position if this infection does come our way, and allows our body to fight it much more effectively. Now, what happens with this suppression of the immune system, this innate immunity? It causes a delayed or suppressed response of type 1 interferon. The type 1 interferon, or IFN, is a response during an initial infection. Type 1 INFs, or interferons, are secreted by infected cells and have numerous effects on surrounding cells, preparing them to fight off possible infection. So in the case of COVID-19, we get this virus that invades our cells, And what happens in a normal innate immune response is our cells secrete these type 1 interferons, and that triggers things like your monocytes, your natural killer cells, and other macrophages to come in and attack that virus or that bacteria before it ever really gets a firm grip on our body. But that is suppressed. That type 1 interferon is not released the way it's supposed to be. It's suppressed by the virus, so we don't get that initial reaction from our immune system. And now another downfall of the way we're treating this is a lot of people, at least in the US, and I'm assuming in other places as well, is they're being told, go home, and if you develop symptoms, come back. Well, many people are symptom-free for several days. And then, like I said, by the time symptoms appear, there's this cytokine storm and an overload of an inflammatory response, and people are presenting already in early stages of pneumonia, and by then, the infection is in full swing, and it's much harder to overcome. So what can we do during that time gap of, before symptoms set in, but before it's full-blown cytokine storm, we're looking at pneumonia. What can we do about that? Well, I found some interesting information. Eden Valley, we're known for hydrotherapy, and we're known for hot saunas, cold contrast, and intense fever therapy. And ironically enough, that stuff works really well right now. There's a lot of people looking at this. One of the resources I viewed here talked about Finland in particular. Now, it's going to get really confusing if I get into all this. I've got this graph on this paper here that shows total cases of different countries and total deaths and where the U.S. is compared to these other places. But one of the sources I looked at talked specifically about Finland, because Finns are known for their saunas. It's been reported by the BBC that up to 99% of Finns use a sauna at least once a week. And the people there not only use the sauna, but they customarily do a really cold water rinse or cold water bath right after the sauna. So there's this hot and cold treatment that goes on there. Now, interesting enough, Finland, when we look at the Nordic countries like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland has by far the fewest total cases. The numbers I wrote down here are actually from today. 1,927 total cases, 1,927 total cases in Finland, compared to some of the other Nordic countries like Sweden was at 6,830 total cases. When we looked at the new reported cases today, Finland had only 45 new cases compared to Norway, which was second in the Nordic countries with 137 new cases. The total deaths, Norway, 71. That's the next closest in the Nordic countries to Finland at 28 total deaths. And only 3 new deaths reported today in Finland compared to 9 in Norway, 28 in Sweden, 18 in Denmark. Compared to the United States, which today reported 1,076 new deaths. So the U.S., we're really falling behind. Finland has a population of around 5.5 million people, and it's reported around 2.5 million saunas in Finland. Their saunas can be up to 200 or exceeding 200 degrees Fahrenheit. They get in there, they stay in there, and a lot of Finns use their saunas more than once a week. And like I said, with the contrast there, not a lot of hard data here. There is some speculation, but I also find it interesting that if we look at Japan as well, Japan's another country known for their hot baths and contrast, and their total deaths are only 77. Deaths per million is very low at only 0.6 deaths per million in their population. 0 new cases reported today and 0 new deaths reported today. So Japan seems to be doing fairly well. Finland seems to be doing fairly well, and I know there's other countries that are too. So just kind of speculating here, that if the Finns in Finland are still using their saunas like they normally do, and their numbers are so low, that maybe there's something to that, and maybe we can replicate that a little bit. Now, I want to talk too about, before we get into the hydrotherapy part of this, I want to mention back in 1919, we had the Spanish flu epidemic, or the Spanish flu pandemic that came through. I mean, thousands and thousands of people died during the Spanish flu. And in 1919, I forgot the publication now, I'm sorry, but it was one of the Seventh-day Adventist publications. Came out by Dr. Rubel, who was the director of the New England Sanitarium in Massachusetts. Now, in 1919, Dr. Rubel was helping fight this Spanish flu pandemic. Now, what he came up with here, now these are, according to his numbers, looking at the army camps, looking at the total number. Now, one of the things that the Spanish flu did is very similar to what our COVID-19 is doing today in causing pneumonia. And once pneumonia set in, the death rate was significantly higher in a lot of cases, and that's what we're seeing today too with the COVID-19, is when symptoms set in, it's already overwhelming the body, pneumonia sets in, and people are going into respiratory failure, and it's very, very difficult to overcome that. So what if during that gap between around day 5 and around day 12, when nothing is happening, they're telling people to go home, what if we can be doing something during that time period to help our immune system, that innate immunity, that time period where our monocytes, our natural killer cells, and our other macrophages can actually be strengthened, can be stimulated, and can overpower this virus so that pneumonia never sets in. Well, this is what Dr. Rubel found in 1919 with very, very simple treatments. Mainly fever therapy, doing fever baths. They didn't have a lot of the equipment that we have today, so the treatments were even simpler than what we have today. It's reported that the army camps in 1919 had about 16% of their Spanish flu patients actually ended up getting pneumonia, and their total death was 6.4%. So in the army camps, 16% developed pneumonia and 6.4 overall death rate in the army camps. Compared to the New England Sanitarium, now he looked at his outpatient treatments and his inpatient treatments. Out of his outpatient treatments, only 8% actually achieved or reached a point where they got pneumonia, and the death rate was only 3.8%. Significantly lower than the 6.4 that was seen in the army camps. Now, in the inpatients that he had, actually in the sanitarium, with the diet and all the things that went with it, only 2% of his inpatients ended up actually acquiring the pneumonia, and the overall death rate was only 1.3%. That is a very significant decrease from 6.4 using traditional methods and medications. So what was he doing? And what do we do here at places like Eden Valley? There's other sister institutions out there that are doing similar things. What can you do at home to protect yourself and actually help your immune system and keep things stimulated and working well? One of the first things we're going to look at is contrast showers. This is one of the easiest things that you can do. Most people have a shower in their home. That's getting the shower good and hot, steamy, hot. Get in there for about 3 minutes and then turn that hot water off. Just allow that cold water to blast your body for about 30 seconds. That's all it takes. Do a couple alternations on that. Always start on hot, always end on cold. That alteration of hot and cold, multiple studies, and there again, we don't have time to go into all of this today. We've already been going at this for almost an hour, so I want to make sure that you have time with your families today. The hot and cold, the contrast has been shown in multiple studies to stimulate the innate immune response. Now that's the problem with the suppression of COVID-19. So now there's things that we can be doing to, one, defend ourselves so that we don't get it. But if we do get it, we can do these treatments to help stimulate that innate immune response, those macrophages, the monocytes, the natural killer cells, to fight off that infection, and very likely, maybe not in all cases, but in many cases, prevent the body from ever reaching a point where the pneumonia sets in. Contrast showers are very, very effective right now. Another thing that you can do is a dry sauna. Now that might be a lot harder today with the gyms closed, so unless you have one in your home, this is something that might be much more difficult. But if you still have access to a dry sauna, crank that thing up, get it up there, 160, 200 degrees, however hot it'll go. Make sure you're really well hydrated. You're going to sweat. So keep yourself hydrated. What the thumbs up I got? Oh, okay, sorry. I thought there was a problem, sorry. Okay. All right, sorry guys. I thought there was a problem with the streaming for a second. So, technical glitch on my end. So if you have access to the sauna, get in there, utilize it, and take breaks. So get in there for about 20 minutes, get good and hot, and then jump into a cold shower. Blast yourself with cold, same as you would with a contrast shower. That alteration of really hot and really cold increases the monocytes. It increases the natural killer cells. It increases those macrophages, makes them more active, and it's going to fight off that infection much more effectively. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about from a hydrotherapy standpoint is fever therapy, fever baths. Now you have to be a little cautious with this one. Don't overdo it. For those of you that have been of Eden Valley and you've been fortunate enough to go through our treatments, they are very intense here. All right, you don't have to necessarily push the body all that hard for these treatments. There are several studies that show that just getting in a bathtub full of water at 103 degrees, that's it, 103 is not that hot. But at 103 degrees, it increases the response of the macrophages in the body, meaning that innate immune response, those monocytes, those natural killer cells, and those other macrophages in those early stages of infection when the type 1 INFs are trying to release and create that immune response. So when infection starts to set in, or what you can be doing is a preventative precaution, get in the bath, soak in 103 degree water. If you have a whirlpool or jets in the tub, it's even better. That circulating water actually increases the effect even a little bit more. So, if the water's 103 up to say, maybe 110, without being too aggressive with this, get your body temperature up. That raise in body temperature also increases the release and production of your monocytes, your natural killer cells, and the other components of your innate immune response. And then, in fact, I did a fever bath today. Thank you, Carlos, if you're watching. It was wonderful. It was very intense. But what I did is I got in really hot water for a short amount of time and drove my body temperature up really high, really fast. And then I got up out of the water and I had him dump ice water over me. It was invigorating. I screamed a little bit, I think. And then I went in straight from there into the shower where I just turned the cold water on and took about a 3-minute cold shower. The cold water is not near as bad in the shower because it's not near as cold as the ice water. So I found that dousing myself with the ice water really, really helps before going into the cold shower. So, there again, increasing that innate immune response. This is a key thing that we can be doing right now. And I really wish that other countries and even our country here, I really wish that they would look at this. Instead of sending people home and saying, come back when you get symptoms, put these things into practice. We talked about the 8 laws of health. We talked about the attitude of gratitude. We went over some wonderful supplements. We've talked about some hydrotherapy that you can be doing. I encourage you, put it into use. Get in those hot showers, those contrast showers. If you still have access to a sauna, use it. Use your bathtub. Get in that hot water and end it with a cold blast, a cold shower. Stimulate that innate immune response and strengthen your body and its ability to not only fight off this particular COVID-19 virus, but if in the unfortunate circumstance arises that you actually contract it, you can stop it in its tracks using these things before a major case ever sets in or before it gets serious. So I thank you very much for joining us. We've got quite a few people, I think, watching here. So for those of you that are on the live chat, I'm going to look through some questions and see what we have here. It looks like Greg asked a question here. What brand of vitamin C was I referring to? Greg, if you're still watching, I don't typically like to endorse any specific brand. I did bring mine from home, and I'll bring it closer to the camera here so maybe you can see. And this is the Ester C. The important thing here is to look to make sure that yours has the bioflavonoids. All right, the vitamin C with bioflavonoids. That is the complete structure of vitamin C. So your less expensive, cheaper supplements may not necessarily be the best. So I do recommend, and I do like this particular brand, the vitamin C with bioflavonoids. Okay. There's two more. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find Amy's question here. I like what Keith said. Keith says, don't fear the cold. Don't think about it. Just do it. I like it. Let's see here. What else? Where is Amy's question? Amy, do you have any supplements at the Eden Valley store or any recommendations for help with severe acid reflux? Amy, there are some things that can definitely help with acid reflux, and there are some supplements that can help with that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you're still watching, to email me directly, and we can, or you can call me as well. So my email address, for those of you that have questions on other health topics, other health concerns, my direct email address is lifestyle@eden-valley.org. I think Clayton's going to type that up here and put it in the chat here right now. My direct office number right now is 970-669-7730. So if you have questions on other health concerns, feel free to email me or give me a call and we'll talk about things. Email is typically a lot easier to start with anyway, so I encourage you to email me. Do we have any other questions that you saw?
We have one more about do homemade cloth face masks really help? This comes from Crystal.
Let's see here. Oh, Crystal. Okay, I see it. Crystal wrote in, do homemade cloth face masks really help? They can a little bit. COVID-19 is, from everything I've been told in the hospital system that I'm still working at, according to a lot of the resources I've been looking into, COVID-19 is an airborne virus. What they're doing in my particular hospital system that I still work in is patients with suspected COVID-19, they are putting just a simple face mask over their nose and mouth while they're being transported to the COVID units. The nurses and healthcare staff working in those units are using more specialized equipment like PAPR masks or hoods, PAPR hoods, and the N95 medical masks. The N95s are going to be really difficult, and there's a fitting process that goes with those. So yeah, the cloth ones are going to help a little bit. They are going to filter out some of the stuff that you're breathing in. And in particular, if you have something, it's going to filter much of what goes out. So it's better than nothing. I personally haven't been wearing one, a face mask outside. A lot of people are choosing to, and I know here in Colorado, because the numbers are apparently rising in Colorado, they are encouraging people to wear masks, and I'm not talking about Halloween masks, but actual face masks while they're out in public spaces. So, if you feel more comfortable doing that, yes, a simple face mask is going to offer at least some level of protection over nothing at all.
Two more questions. So one more question, one more comment.
Let's see here.
Water temperature versus body temperature.
So Keith wrote in, how are things going locally on the medical system side of things? Keith, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I work at 2 hospitals here locally. I work at McKee Medical Center and I work at North Colorado Medical Center. I'm only there a couple days a week and I work in the cath lab, so my exposure to this is actually really limited. Last time I was at the local hospital here in Loveland, there were no confirmed cases there. But there were several in Greeley at the hospital there, and then in Fort Collins, I'm not sure what the numbers are. It's not as bad here. And that's another thing too, that brings up another point. Thank you, Keith, for asking that. And that is where we look at these epicenters where there's this high concentration, these really high numbers of people getting COVID-19, these are in your bigger cities. Denver is going to have a lot more cases than Loveland because of the population density. That's one of the reasons New York City right now is being hit so hard, is because their population density, you've got so many millions of people in that confined area, it's only natural that you've got more people in close proximity. So for those of us that live in the smaller towns, that live out in the country, yeah, it's going to be in our area at some point possibly, but it's going to be a lot harder for us to get it because we're not around as many people. So now is a great time to be in a smaller community, or better yet, out in the country where it's a lot safer. How high does your temperature need to get in a fever bath? Greg, it depends on what you're trying to do. If we're looking at just an immune boost, like we've been talking about today, to help the body fight off COVID-19 or any other type of illness, if the flu is going around, to stimulate a boost in that innate immune response, as the body temperature goes up, so a febrile state is at about 99 degrees. That's a low-grade fever. At 99 degrees, your body is already starting to stimulate that immune response. More macrophages are starting to be produced. More of them are being released into the system. So even at just 99 degrees, it's starting to augment. And the higher you go, the more that stimulus is achieved. So safely at home, 102 degrees, 103 degrees. I saw Ben chimed in. Hey, Ben, good to see you on here. Appreciated the text today. Send me another video of the kiddo. It was awesome. 103 degrees is about as high as I would recommend you try to do at home. And I also encourage you, if you're going to push your body to that 102, 103 degree level, don't be at home alone, because if you go to get out of that tub, you're going to have a really high likelihood of getting lightheaded or dizzy when you stand up. You can black out, and if you wind up cracking your head on the floor, you haven't done a whole lot to protect your immune system. So if you try to do the fever bath at home, at least have somebody there to help you get out of the tub. And it says the bath water. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. No, temperature and bath water. So there's 2 different questions there. So temperature-wise, body temperature-wise, oral temperature, 102 to 103. Now, from a water temperature standpoint, what's been shown in the research is water as low as 103 degrees. So if you're going to do a fever bath, I wouldn't do any colder than that for a fever bath situation. 103 degrees, and if you tolerate the heat well, you can maybe push it to about 110 degrees at home. But there again, you want to make sure there's somebody with you, especially to help you get out of the tub. Don't do that by yourself. But the studies I've looked at show at about 103, 104 degrees, especially with circulating water, just those lower temperatures, like I said, that's not that hot. That's just a nice warm bath. That significantly increases that innate immunity. It helps increase the response of your things like your monocytes, those natural killer cells, and those macrophages, so that they can fight off those invasive viruses and bacteria a lot faster and a lot more effectively. Anything else that we've seen pop up?
Do I need to be checking my temperature during the fever bath?
Let's see here. How come I'm having a hard time seeing these? Okay. Oh, it's because my screen's... Let me see if I can scroll this down a little bit. There we go. Let's see here. Oh yeah, okay, so Greg, do I need to be checking my temperature during a fever bath? No, you don't. You can. It never hurts to. So it'll give you an idea of what your body's doing and how you're responding to the heat. And there again, you don't want to push your body temperature too high. That can become unsafe at home without proper training or without somebody there that's been properly trained like our staff here. So I wouldn't push yourself higher than about 102, 103 at home. And even, at 103, that's pretty high. So just be careful. If you're in water that's 105, 106 degrees, your body temperature will increase anyway. So, but the body temperature doesn't have to rise a whole lot for that immune response to be stimulated. Let's see. Ben says, does Eden Valley have the capable to treat COVID-19 patients? Ben, that's a really good question. We do have the ability to treat COVID-19 patients. However, given the close proximity of our staff, the fact that we all live here, and the fact that we do see a lot of cancer patients and people with suppressed immune systems, we're not able to accept people right now that actually have COVID-19. That's for the safety of our staff as well as for other lifestyle guests. Because if we have somebody that is fighting a cancer situation that has a suppressed immune system and they contract COVID-19 from a fellow lifestyle guest, the likelihood of somebody with immunosuppression is going to be it's going to be a pretty hard fight for that person to fight off that infection, and the COVID-19 is going to have a much more likelihood of becoming, significantly more severe. So we could, if we had a way to do it safely for everybody else and for our staff, but given the nature of the virus, that's why we're doing this talk, so that people can do some things at home to help protect themselves. So let's see. Jack says, what items spoken of should be done or taken regularly and not just when you think you might be sick? Well, Jack, it really depends on where you're at with your overall lifestyle and your overall health. So there's times and places, depending on a person's diet, their nutritional level, what is their lifestyle like, what is their hydration like, their physical activity. So it's not going to be the same for everybody. For example, myself, I don't take herbal supplements on a regular basis. I tend to take them when I feel like I need them, and that is, there again, because I'm in close proximity with my children and my wife at home. So if they get sick, I start taking some supplements to help give my body an extra boost to prevent me from getting what they have. With the COVID-19 going on, I'm still not taking a whole lot. I have been taking once in a while a little more vitamin C, but not even on a daily basis, because there again, with the plant-based diet, I'm getting a lot of good, fresh, and a lot of organic produce with our fruits, our vegetables, good healthy foods, not very little, if any, processed foods. And I've really cut back on the amount of sugar in my diet right now. So those are things that you can do that are going to help prevent things. But if you feel like you need to take something on a daily basis, there again, you can always go with 1,000 milligrams of the vitamin C a couple times a day. The Ultimate Yuck can be taken on a daily basis. The vitamin D3 is generally needed every day as well. Oh, I forgot to talk about grapefruit seed extract. That one was hiding in the corner. Grapefruit seed extract is another one that's a really strong antimicrobial. It'll help fight viruses and bacteria, even fungal infections. So this is another good one. Sorry, I forgot to mention that one earlier. So, what I encourage you to do, Jack, and for everybody else watching, if you're taking a shower, anybody at the end of your shower can crank on the cold water. So what I do a lot of times, even my young daughters here, they're ages 8 and 6, a lot of times they'll actually turn the hot water off, and you'll hear them squealing sometimes in there from their blast of cold water, their contrast. My brother-in-law here, Clayton, he's here helping us run this. I know he does contrast every day as well. So when you take your daily hot shower, when you're done with the hot, and you're ready to get out, just turn the hot water off. Give yourself a good 30 to 45 seconds of just pure cold, take your breath away water, get it on your head, your chest, your back, and just even doing that on a routine basis is going to help stimulate that innate immunity. So that's something that's really easy to do just with your daily showers. If you want to take it up a notch, you can actually do rotations of contrast, 3 minutes hot followed by 30 seconds of cold, with 3 to 4, 5 cycles. You can do the fever baths that we talked about, or the contrast saunas, sitting in the sauna for 20 to 30 minutes, followed by a good cold rinse, and alternating that for an hour or so. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Kim, hey Kim, good to see you on here. Kim asks, are you still having programs? As of right now, yes, we are. Our April 5 program, let's see, what are we at today? April 5. We are on April 5. We were supposed to have a session start today. We did make the decision to postpone this session by 2 weeks, just to kind of see if maybe this would kind of settle down a little bit with all this COVID issues going on. So, sorry, I had to get a drink here. That program has been put off to run, Chelsea, I think it's April 19 to May 3rd. Yeah, April 19 to May 3rd is our next program. Because of the restrictions that were being put on with how many people we can have in a gathering, we are having to limit our guest numbers to 9 total attendees right now. So space is a lot more limited in our programs, and that's going to be indefinitely. Unfortunately, we don't know when things are going to get back to normal. So as of right now, we're still running, but we're limited to nine guests at a time. Next program is April 19 to May 3rd. You can check our website under the lifestyle tab. You can look at our program dates. Everything else is still on schedule. So, Carlos, so it looks like Brenda's saying, once you get to a fever level, how long should you stay at a fever level for maximum positive effect? So once we get to a febrile state, how long do we need to stay febrile for maximum effect? Well, there again, it depends on what you're trying to do. So looking at just an immune response, it doesn't take long. The bath that I did today with Carlos, I got in, I hit it pretty hard today, but there again, I had a trained therapist with me today, so my water temperature was 115 degrees. I got in there, Chelsea's jaw just hit the floor. I got in at 115 degrees. I stayed there for about 15 minutes, got my temperature up to a little over 104, and then I had Carlos start cooling the water down slowly after that over the next, I think, 15 to 20 minutes. And then got up, got doused with ice water, and then a cold shower. So, if you can get your body up to, 100 degrees, 101, 102, I would shoot for at least 101.5, for an oral temperature with the fever therapy. So once you get to that 101.5 or a little bit higher, if you can keep yourself there for 20, 30 minutes, you're doing some good. If you can keep yourself there for an hour, it's even better. So it just depends. Typically, the longer the better. But there again, there is some benefit to the contrast as well. So, if you get yourself into that febrile state, just depends on how much time you have and how much time you want to spend doing this. Being hot can be miserable. So I'd say at least 20 minutes. And then right now, I would highly recommend ending that with that douse of cold water. Okay, hopefully that answered. Looks like, do you see any more? All right. I think that covers all the questions we've had up to this point. Is there any other questions? Anybody wants to type in? Let's see here. Amelia, do you have a program? Do you have a program to train someone who is interested in learning how to do this for a ministry or medical missionary? Amelia, that is a great question coming from the daughter of our education director. Yes, we do have a training program. Thank you, Amelia, for bringing that up so I could mention it. I should have more details on the education program. Unfortunately, I don't, but we do have a training program. So for those of you that are watching, that are interested in learning more about natural remedies and health evangelism and things that you can do, like what we do here at Eden Valley, you can contact our our education director, Phyllis Zimmerman. Her email was just popped up on the chat, so feel free to email Phyllis for more details on our education program and how you can receive training in natural remedies and natural health. All right. Any other questions? Going once, going twice? Okay. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. Hopefully you got something from this. It was a good experience trying to learn how to talk in front of a camera. Thanks for those of you that came down to actually give me some faces to look at and talk to while we're doing this. So if you're interested, for those of you that are still watching, if you're interested in having health talks in your area, email me. We do travel. We do health talks. We can do health presentations and seminars and series right there in your area. So if you're interested in that, give me an email. Clayton, can you pop my email back up there again one more time? Clayton's on the chat line there is going to put my email address on there again. It's lifestyle@eden-valley.org. Shoot us an email and we can talk about what kind of health presentations you would like for your area, for your church, your school, your community, and we can work on making those arrangements. So thank you so much for all of you that tuned in, and we asked, let's say a quick prayer before we go. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for those that tuned in today. We thank you, Lord, for giving us this information. And in these uncertain times with viruses and colds and flus and things as scary as this COVID-19 stuff going on, that you've provided stuff for us that we can utilize, that we can put into practice, that can help keep us safe, that can keep us healthy, and can help fight these things off. So, Lord, we ask for everybody that's watching today and for their families that you will keep them safe, keep them healthy. And, Lord, we thank you for all that you do. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have other topics that you would like to see or learn on, let us know. Now that we've got some equipment put together, we can keep doing more presentations. So if there's a health topic that you would like to see discussed, shoot me an email, and we'll see if we can put something together for you. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.